Hello and welcome to The Passion Show. My name is Phil and joining me as always is my co-host Kyle.
Hello.
And this week we have a returning guest, Cal.
Hi.
So in today's episode, we're talking about Dragon Ball. So you're a big fan of Dragon Ball, are you not?
Dragon Ball has been such a big part of my life, yes. It's for a long time now, and I just enjoy the series so much. Rewatched it so many times. And yeah, I thought I'd talk about it for a little bit.
I find that people who are into Dragon Ball are really into it, so I think it's quite a good opportunity to get you on to talk about it, because I don't there's not many people who have a casual...
It's an interesting one, because me and Phil know nothing of the subject.
Yeah, we know vague things like characters, I guess, and stuff like that. There's that dude who looks like Mewtwo.
Yeah, with the purple head.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's about as far as our knowledge extends. Yeah. So, do you want to just give us a short summary of what Dragon Ball is?
Of course, yeah. So there's actually a few series in it. There's original Dragon Ball and what most people are aware of, Dragon Ball Z.
Is that not the first one?
No,
my God.
A lot of Western culture knew of Dragon Ball from Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
But the original Dragon Ball didn't really extend much out of Japan. So the people who really love the series would go back and realize there's so much of the story in Dragon Ball that exists in Z, but it's never explained unless you go back and see this information.
So if you've got your pens and paper ready, make sure you note down Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z. So watch both.
And then in more recent times, we've got Dragon Ball Super, which is the current series, which is the first series in about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So the franchise has been around since very early 80s, so before even I was born.
What is Dragon Ball, and explain the concept to us?
Dragon Ball is a mystic adventure. The series runs around these objects called Dragon Balls, hence the title, which are 7 magical orbs which, once collected, will grant you usually one wish, which changes sometimes throughout the show. A giant magical dragon appears out of them and will grant you your wish.
Nice.
So the story usually revolves around Goku, who is, at the start of the series, a boy with a tail who is obscenely strong. And it's his adventures with a girl named Bulma, as they search for these Dragon Balls and encounter challenges along the way, other fights and villains.
They have mad fights, don't they?
Well, at the start it was just pretty standard martial arts.
Really?
But when you get into Dragon Ball Z, you get some crazy, super fast fights with energy beams and all this sort.
It looks mad.
Yeah, it looks mental. Mad. It's full on Thanos level power, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, one of my first experiences with Dragon Ball, I remember exactly what happened. I was ill that day, so I wasn't in school. I was lying on the couch watching Cartoon Network. I believe some of the shows then was Ed, Ed and Eddie and Johnny Bravo and all these classic tunes.
Cartoon Network. Yeah.
And then suddenly this Dragon Ball Z came on and okay, what is this? I don't understand. And there's a green alien man with antennas and there's this kid with long black hair.
Is that Mewtwo?
No, that's not Mewtwo. And I was like, what is this show? And I sat through it and they shoot energy beams and all this stuff. I'm like, okay. And then I saw led
to this.
Yeah, I thought, this is interesting. While I'm here, I'll watch a couple of these episodes. And then it sort of faded away from me for a little bit as I grew older. And then suddenly I came back to it and I was like, I remember this show. Yeah, the guy with the yellow hair, he transforms. So then I went back and I was like, right, let's watch all this. Now that, internet's now a thing, I can go around, find all this information. And that was where my love for Dragon Ball came from.
So you sort of, even though you did watch it while you were younger, did you primarily get into it as an adult, sort of, or as a teenager?
Yeah, it was definitely something that once I, reached 16, 17, and I had more revenues that I could go through, definitely something I rediscovered and fell in love with what I had found a few years prior and then forgotten about.
Yeah, I know from the outside, looking into this fan base, It seems even though it's a cartoon and it's on a Cartoon Network and stuff, it doesn't seem like a kid's show, really.
People take it very seriously.
Yeah, and even just watching some of the fights and stuff like that, it just seems like an anime rather than being tailored for kids. Is that sort of true within the show?
Yeah, that is absolutely true. It essentially was one of the first animes that really hit it big in the West, and you can thank Dragon Ball for all the anime that you have now. A lot of typical stereotypes that are in anime and other media these days can be called back to Dragon Ball. One of them being the antagonist who's the rival to the main guy, which is Vegeta, which I'm sure you probably heard the name before. And his character arc is what really, and his personality was what brought that sort of role to modern media.
Mm-hmm. I know that Super Broly came out like recently. I remember that being enormous. Like, there was so many people that came. I think it sold out.
Yes, a lot of places sold out. They underestimated what sort of impact it would have on the fan base. It has been, for the last few years, since about 2012, they've been releasing new films, which they haven't done since late 90s, early 2000s, so it has been a very long time. But there is such a huge fan base in the West that Japan just, a lot of the time, just didn't realise. And it was with these new films I discovered that there's so much love. I mean, they had Dragon Ball for the first time at the Thanksgiving parade in America. They had Goku there as a balloon, in a big balloon, which just shows you. I mean, the presenter unfortunately mispronounced Saiyan and things like this, but it's such a big step, and I think going forward, Japan are realizing that the West cares so much about this franchise that they want to make sure that when they release, say, new episodes in native Japan and in the Japanese language, they want to make sure their companies in America and across the world are prepared to receive those episodes straight away and have something made so it can be released to us way sooner than it has been in the past.
I've just realised from you saying that, like, Japanese culture is starting to, like, really bleed into our culture, like, in a good way, like, positively. Like, so many episodes that we've done now, samurai films, Studio Ghibli movies, Pokemon, like, it's all Asian culture, and it's all like making our culture better. Like, we're getting the best parts of that. Yeah,
there's like I said, just like films like Alita and stuff like that, and anime crossing over, and like, you know, One Punch Man being so accessible. Like, it's really interesting times for stuff like, you know, shows like Dragon Ball, isn't it? Because it is accessible now.
I feel like that's because of the internet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's been happening since 90s to 2000s, but it's always been such a low building thing until, obviously, I would say in the last 10 years, it's just suddenly had a huge spike, and you realise, like, oh, there's so much great content here that we can work with. And obviously, some companies like Funimation are really the key guys in that to help bring that to the West.
When we do a podcast, usually we ask how to get into it and stuff like that, but correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there like hundreds of episodes of Dragon Ball?
Well, working backwards, the current newest series, Dragon Ball Super, has roughly 140 episodes, let's say.
That's like a big time commitment, isn't it?
It's 22 minutes an episode, so you're looking at 2 days if you didn't sleep.
Oh.
But yeah, Dragon Ball Z had 200 and odd episodes, and Dragon Ball, which most people don't usually watch, had 100 or so. And then there's Dragon Ball GT, which is considered non-canon now from the fan company, in that it had the original creator, Akira Toriyama, had pretty much no say in that series, other than here's some designs of some characters, and then they went
bad.
It wasn't amazing. It had definitely some aspects in there that people enjoyed, but overall, they made some choices in making Goku, who is the main character, and as you know, is an adult at this point from the films and Dragon Ball Z. They made him a child through the power of the Dragon Balls, and that was obviously a huge choice that just didn't go down too well with the fans. And then they immediately tried to retcon that by giving him a transformation that turns him back into an adult. So, whatever that's about.
So, speaking of bad Dragon Ball, what do you think of Dragon Ball Evolution?
Dragon Ball Evolution. Again, the issue with that is they never talked to Akira Toriyama, the creator.
So this is the live-action movie,
Yeah, the American one.
Yes, he tried to get involved, but they wouldn't really let him in on it. The film was absolutely terrible. I watched it. I did watch it, and I was like, I could see this sort of reference in the material, but nowhere near as much, like, they made it as a cash grab, pretty much, and not so much as a love for the franchise.
Similar to, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, Fox had the rights to that, and if you're up to date on your news, Disney now owns Fox. So in a few years, we could end up with a new Dragon Ball film made by Disney.
I think if you made a Dragon Ball film in the sort of vein of Alita, using Japanese culture as, like, an inspiration, trying to implement more, like, anime into live action, if that makes sense. So don't be afraid to use, like, CGI and make it big and make the universe feel lived in and stuff like that. I think that's sort of, like, the key to making good, like, films like that.
Well, if it was me personally, a lot of people love Dragon Ball Z as opposed to the rest of the franchise. So I would focus mainly on that, and to do with the Namek/Frieza saga. Frieza being the person who looks like Mewtwo.
Not Mewtwo.
Not Mewtwo.
I want to establish not Mewtwo.
And obviously that storyline involves obviously a lot of Goku discovering he's not human. He's been on Earth for so many years, and he discovers that he's a Saiyan. And also, at the end of this arc, he discovers that the transformation to a Super Saiyan, which is supposed to only exist once every 3,000 years, he discovers it in his fight with Frieza. And obviously from there, you've got a film there, from him discovering he's a Saiyan, to him finding Frieza, to trying to revive his friends back to life, and then the ultimate loss that turns him into a Super Saiyan. And you've got just a perfect story there that you could make a film out of.
You could literally do it really simply, couldn't you? Like, him unlocking his powers at the end, but what that film would need to be is the jumping off point, you know, and then you can go into all the other crazier things that are within this universe, because it seems like a really huge, like, universe, considering how much content there is, like, how many episodes
you would definitely have to go over a little bit of the original Dragon Ball. Oh, here's this kid. It could just be a couple of images, just flick through it, and then boom, you start your film. But yeah, Disney, come talk to me. I'll make a Dragon Ball film for you. Legend of the Super Saiyan, we'll call it.
Lovely stuff. So if someone was going to try and get into Dragon Ball, would you recommend sort of getting into the series, or would you say maybe try this film, and if you enjoy that one, then you could get into it more? What sort of avenue would you recommend?
Well, one of the fun things about Dragon Ball is during why they're creating the series, they essentially made short films that are roughly around 45 to 60 minutes long, and these pretty much kind of copied, changed the details of the main storyline.
Like, summarised it into brief?
Yeah, pretty much. So if you wanted to just quickly jump in and in the space of an hour sort of see an arc, you could do that. They also created a series called Dragon Ball Z Kai, which was essentially Dragon Ball Z, but they got rid of all the filler episodes, which were episodes that didn't exist in the original manga, because that's where the series originally came from. But the guys at Funimation and the animation studios created these episodes just to give the manga artists a bit more time to get ahead of the story and figure out where they're going to go from there.
It's really interesting. I didn't know that, because I knew they had so many episodes, but I didn't know there was like a reasoning behind it.
Yeah. So it essentially got to the point, which is why the Frieza saga is loved so much, but also hated, because it lasts so long. Yeah. It's literally, there was probably a few weeks between the manga being created and the show going live with it. So they had such a small time frame that they had to just drag out every page that they got given and be like, we got to make this a whole episode.
So the full series compared to the cut down version, how many episodes is each one?
I believe Kai is roughly around 120 to 150 episodes, whereas the original was almost double that.
That's quite good. That, like, if you are getting into it, like, that's like probably one of the easiest routes, isn't it? Like, you could at least give the sort of 150 a go.
You've got a lot of content. Like, if you do get into it, that's a brilliant thing, isn't it? There's loads to jump into.
Yeah, I suppose it is. It's nice when you really get into something and there's a lot to access.
Yeah,
and it
definitely
feels like a franchise that really pays into that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot in this series. A lot of the time, it's very rare you get a series where your main protagonist, which in this case Goku, is actually not the most loved character in the series. It's kind of fairly basic, and maybe people will disagree with me on this, but he's very, very like one line. It's a very simple character in that he wants to fight guys, he wants to get stronger.
Yeah.
And all the side characters are really what bring it to life. You see so much character development in Vegeta, in Piccolo, in Gohan, Gohan being the son of Goku, that it just sort of brings it all together, that you don't have to focus on this main character all the time. You can just go outside and see the development of all these other characters.
I think that's what'll be sort of interesting about like a film universe, because like once you've got past Goku and the introduction, that's when you can start doing interesting things. Like that's what I'd enjoy.
Of course, everyone needs to. I'm sure we've all been there. Try and do a Kamehameha, or try and transform. Like with anyone who's seen the series has tried to do that, and I think probably people who haven't seen the series as well.
So, who'd win in a fight, Goku or Superman?
Okay, definitely Superman. While Goku is strong in his universe, his whole storyline is, oh, there's this guy who's stronger than me, there's the level, I'm going to break my own limits and discover how much stronger I can get. Whereas Superman's really just, I'm as strong as I want to be. I am actually a big Superman fan as well, so that question does clash in my mind, but at the end of the day, Superman can like move planets and turn back time and all this other weird, wacky stuff that just the DC universe is insane, god level tier. I don't think Dragon Ball will ever achieve that sort of level.
How sick would Goku be in Smash Bros?
There's definitely a huge push for that sort of stuff.
Do you think it could ever happen?
It could definitely happen, like
because he is in video games. Because there is Dragon Ball video games that are similar to Smash. Like I've watched gameplay and they look mental.
Yeah, there's going back, there's like Budokai Tenkaichi, which is one of the fan favorites from way back when. But more modernly, you got Dragon Ball. Fighters. You got Fighters, which is very like a competitive game at the moment. Obviously, there's loads of people who love fighting games, and this is one of those ones that's up in those top couple of positions. But yeah, he's definitely got a moveset that would work well in Smash.
He's got a perfect final smash, hasn't he?
Exactly, his Kamehameha, but at the end of the day, it's just the same as, say, Mega Man's beam or Samus's beam. It's you're really adding much more to the franchise by adding this character. Maybe they are, maybe they won't.
So I think we'll sort of wrap it up there for this week. Thanks to Kyle, as always, for being my co-host.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks to Cal for coming on and teaching us about Dragon Ball.
I hope you learned a few more things.
I'm definitely interested in it. Like, it sounds like something I could get into, because I do enjoy that sort of style of anime. But yeah, if you have any passions yourself that you want us to talk about, feel free to leave them in the comments, because we'd love to talk about it.
Or hit us up in the DMs if you want to come on the show yourself.
Yeah, if you want to come on the show to talk about your passion, we'll be more than happy to have you. We're always looking for guests. But other than that, we'll see you next time.
Have a good day.
Bye. See ya.